Hello guys, I am Katie Cannon, and my threes are the semester coming to an end, colder weather, so hopefully snow, fingers crossed, and good friends.
Hi, I'm Kasey Queen, and my three are hot chocolate to combat that cold weather, some good books, and a nice warm bed to climb into.
Hi, my name's Emily Misencik, and my three are my family. I have a really big family, and we're all really close. My book club members here with me today, and Chick-fil-A.
My name is Kasey Wise, and my three are turtles, specifically sea turtles. My family for sure keeps growing literally all the time. And obviously, I would say my dogs and cat. They keep me happy on the worst days possible.
True.
I'm Katherine Salgado, and my threes are my family, this wonderful group right here, and coffee.
Love a good coffee.
I like how we all mentioned family. Or not all of us. Well, I like how y'all mentioned family. It really ties in. I didn't either. We talked about the weather.
Whoops. I love my family too.
They're alright. Just kidding, Mom. Love you.
Okay,
When this goes viral off the bed.
so the book for our book club was B is for Blended by Lindsay Stoddard, and you're probably wondering why we just said our threes, or what does that even mean? But in our book, the main character, Bia, has like this little tradition with like her mom and her grandma that every morning when they wake up, like they say like three things that they're grateful for, and that's why we just did that.
Yeah. So that book, B is for Blended, is a super cute novel. The main character is a middle school girl named B. So B, it's always been B and her mom, or like family members, so like her grandma, her aunt, stuff like that. B's mom gets a little scandalous, gets pregnant with her boyfriend. I know, we were all shocked. Oh my gosh, the audacity of her. But so the mom gets married to her boyfriend. Now, another plot twist, this boyfriend is the father of B's nemesis, Bryce. Bryce just bullies B, they don't get along. B has claimed him her nemesis. And Bryce also has two other brothers. And so it goes from B and her mom, like B's safe spot, to B, her mom, the new baby in utero, the baby daddy's three other kids, one of who is B's arch nemesis, and like 18 million pets. It's just
Three.
2 dogs
Just
and a
three
cat.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
It's overwhelming because that's like it's 2v7 is how
Yeah.
he describes it.
Yeah, like absolutely insane. But a cute little short synopsis, like if you just long story didn't read, you know. So the book is about accepting that changes happen, being okay with changes, moving into a new house, middle school, which we all know is just an absolutely crazy transitional period, a new family, or a blended family, if you catch my drift, and new friends. So throughout the book, you know, things just keep happening for B. Poor thing cannot catch a break. She claims that she has a new nemesis, A and B, you know, quite great literacy connotation on my part. A is Alina, you know, Aliana is up for interpretation. Aliana, she got some soccer moves. Girl can work it on a soccer field. And B is all about soccer as well. And so she just gets, they play the same position. There's just a little bit of jealousy going on. A little competition. But the girls on the soccer team also wore a wage on sexism throughout their middle school years. They are breaking down gender barriers. Their principal, what a case this guy is. He is just a misogynistic, sexist, no good fella. We hate him. All the girls hate the principal. So the girls on the soccer team are going against him. These best friend Max, who is on the autism spectrum, is helping them. And it's just a good all feel good book about change and the middle school years. And there's so many themes throughout the book. One that we've talked on, definitely sexism. Another is diversity and inclusion, accepting change, and also character development and growth. So I kind of talked on sexism a little bit. If anyone else has anything they want to add on the whole sexism.
I would say the principal's definitely sexist. You can see how he treats the idea of a girls' soccer team as lesser than a boys'. He almost doesn't even let them have a girls' soccer team. He tries to keep them from it until they get support and they get signatures and they have to go through this huge formal process about it. And then he almost uses the first off, he doesn't get a coach for the girls team.
Yeah.
He's the coach for the boys team, and he says, "Okay, I'll coach the girls." And he almost blames the girls team for the fact that, oh, well, you guys are going to have practice, so you're taking away from the boys.
Yeah.
And so then the boys don't like the girls team. So not only does he have a bias against the girls team, he almost pushes that bias onto the boys, which you see play a role in the novel as his sexist ways really get rubbed off on the young, impressionable boys of the class who also start to show sexist tendencies.
Yeah, they start to think like it's okay to treat them that way, like our principal does it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'll see him be like, "Oh, don't play like a girl," and everything, and then you'll see that the boys start making fun of the girls team. Like, they get a dress-up day for one of their games, and they dress up in tutus with their hair up and sloppy makeup and everything, and they are running around with their soccer ball saying, "Oh, I can't kick, I might break a nail."
Yeah.
And just overall being sexist and kind of showing that same attitude that the principal does throughout the novel.
And then one thing that really bothered me and Katie at the end is how the principal doesn't seem to like accept or like realize what he's done, like his actions. He basically denies it as he says, "What does he say? I didn't mean to say that girls are like inferior," but like all his actions like show otherwise. And the girls' team actually gathered evidence of all his like actions and words that he said and like presented to.
Yeah.
And he still just can't accept it. Even though he does blatant things like treating the boys' team as, oh, they're champion winners, oh, they get the newest uniforms and everything, and then he gives the girls less days of practice. He gives them the boys' old uniforms instead of them getting new uniforms. He doesn't respect. So for the boys, you know, in soccer, like I personally didn't know much about soccer, but in the book, she does a really good job. She constantly compares everything to soccer, so you do start to learn about her passion for soccer and how she interprets life through soccer. But she talks about how every number on the team has a meaning and a position and everything. And instead of like with the boys team, he goes through and gives everyone a number based on what they're good at and everything. Girls, he just randomly draws them out of a box, gives them some sloppy uniform, and tells them where they're going to be on the team. Doesn't listen to them. And yeah, in that book that Katherine was talking about just then, he Maximilian keeps up with everything the principal says about the students, and he calls the girls, instead of marking on their abilities on the field, he says, "Oh, she's a bad listener. She's
has an attitude.
She has an attitude.
Right, like too sentimental for one.
Too sensitive."
Yeah.
Because one of the girls, and it was all, and you could see the actions they were doing, like trying to stand up to him when he wrote like the attitude that Emily just said, or too sensitive because he was literally being mean to her and she felt sad about their principal literally degrading her.
Yeah.
And apparently that made her too sensitive. So just like not taking them at face value for their skills in soccer or their desire, trying to constantly get them to quit so he didn't have to coach them. Instead of like actually trying with them because he was sexist. So you see, it's not against soccer because obviously with the boys he does such a great job of like being there to support them and everything, listening to them, and then just completely drops that when it's to the girls.
Yeah, I had something to add on that. It's almost like you have this older man in power. He's, a principal, so, he's older, he's matured, he's grown, and he has his own thoughts or opinions about women, girls, da 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 da. And in my opinion, it's almost like when he denied, like, oh, I didn't mean it like that, da da da. It was almost like he wasn't thinking that he was going to be caught because he thought so little of these girls, and also Max in a way because he was on the autism spectrum. Just shows that it's not really, he didn't take these people, like Kasey said, for face value. He had preconceived notions about them, which was hard.
One thing that I liked about it, though, is you do see this principal who never gets held accountable for his actions. And he is like this giant authority figure, but you do see the teachers, although they are under the principal, you see them try to do things to kind of show the class, hey, that's not okay. Like when the boys dress up in tutus and everything, she takes this as a learning opportunity to sit down and have them explain what they did and like why they thought it they thought it was funny. It's kind of like how you see like people making jokes and asking them to explain their joke when it's cruel, and having them not being able to explain why it's funny.
Because it's not.
Yeah, because it's not, because it's oh, this is funny because it hurts people's feelings. So you see the teachers really take this as a teaching opportunity and step in, and I thought that was really good. Like, I know we're all future teachers, so that was really good.
Yeah, you definitely want to make sure you're like sticking up for your students. Like, just because the principal is a principal doesn't make him like always right.
I think they did that in a good way too. They didn't like go up to him and be like, "You're sexist," but they made it into a good lesson for sure.
Yeah, I think they did what they could do without overstepping. So they didn't, get in trouble. And I just wanted to expand on that. So when the boys did dress up as the girls, the boys that were in his class, it was Bryce and then two of Bryce's best friends. The teachers kind of just let them like hash it out. They didn't like kind of put an end to it, and I feel like that was, like Kasey said, a really good opportunity for them to really understand where each other was coming from. So
one thing I did really like, it was that this happened in the later parts of the book. So we will talk about like Bryce being Bee's nemesis. He goes through a lot of change, character development, a lot of growth, and that was one of the moments where he actually shined. So he did have those two best friends that did fully dress up as girls with pigtails and makeup and bras and talking about how they didn't want to break a nail and everything. But then you have Bryce who showed up and he was actually wearing Bee's jersey that he stole out of her room. And he was dressed as a professional player, and it really made a statement to all of these guys sitting there. And then him dressed up professionally, like, and his friends were like, "Oh, we told you to dress up as a girl," and he has that moment where he says, "I did dress up as a girl player. They're just as strong, and they can do all this." And you really see that that's a big change from who he was as a follower to bullies in the beginning of the novel. But he has that change when he stands up and you can kind of see him and Bee or kind of have that moment of she's like, "Oh, he went in my room and he stole my jersey," but wow, he's willing to stand up for his friends for what's right. In the beginning of the novel, that's not the same Bryce that we see.
For sure, that was like a big stepping point for him.
Which is really strong and really powerful for a middle school student. Like when I think of middle school students, I'm not thinking of someone that's going to stand up to their friends for their new stepsister, especially not the character that Bryce was in the beginning of the book. It's just not, I didn't see that coming. Me personally.
You see this middle school is that critical step where your friends, and they always say it, your friends are a reflection of you. So you could be a great person, and if you pick friends that are bad, and because we all have that, it reflects on you, but also you have that peer pressure that's almost silent that you don't know. Like, your friends don't do their homework, well, you're not going to be the one to do yours because then you're the nerd of the group and you're going to get bullied. So it really is a really big step when you see Bryce, like, his friends starting to reject him because he's the one standing up for the girls. He's the one not laughing when things are happening and everything. So you see him making that big step and kind of distancing himself from his like so-called friends beforehand, and really making that leap, which is hard for middle school where you really do want to fit in to be the bigger or the person who
being like the bigger person overall.
Like not following.
Not being a follower.
Other people's things that they think are funny aren't honestly funny. Like, everyone just laughs because they want to like look cool and be popular and not be the next person to make fun of. And now that we have hit the point on sexism, another big topic in this book was diversity and inclusion, which I think Katherine wanted to speak about.
Okay, so this book it like has a lot like on diversity. So we have a new girl who's at school, a new girl, and she's also a part of the soccer team, and her name is Kasey, and she's deaf, so she can't like communicate obviously as well as her teammates, but her teammates do such like an amazing job trying to communicate with her. They start learning sign language, and that's how they communicate with her. And the coach is still super mean about this. Like he does not care. He'll just yell, and he knows that she obviously like isn't understanding, and he doesn't care. But team members do an awesome job, like letting her know everything and make her feel included with everything.
Not feeling like different, and like,
Yeah.
standing out.
Yeah, and she does have a translator in school hours, but Bee points out in the book that because soccer is not during contracted school hours, the translator can't attend the practices with them. So yeah, the team just like Bee and all the other girls on the team just do a really good job of making sure that she's heard and she understands what's going on, and just Cece wanting to play with them, knowing that she's not going to have her translator there is really
Huge.
awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like
scared.
Yeah.
talking about like with this like the teacher having a big impact negatively, the teachers those students have their homeroom do a really great job of immediately introducing Cece, bringing up her translator and how that works, and then bringing in the sign language alphabet and starting to learn sign language as a class. They obviously don't get very far in like a couple of weeks, but we see them the teacher teaching them how to count on the first day of Cece being there to make sure that she's included. And then, yeah, like Emily was saying, that transferring onto the field where they find themselves wanting to learn sign language to be able to communicate with their parents.
And then also we have Max who has autism and he has like OCD as well. And usually like Bea was his only friend prior to joining being the manager of the soccer team, the girls soccer team, because that's what he is. So before like the beginning of the book, Bryce, like with his like personality from the beginning, he used to like bully him along with his friends. He used to bully Max. But then once Bryce experiences this character growth, he really like is very like inclusive towards Max and understands him and helps him out a lot.
I actually had like a personal tidbit on this one. So I have some family members that I'm really close to that are autistic, and growing up, like I was around them all the time. I knew they had autism, like I knew what it was, but I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Like it was just Taylor and Tyler, like that's what they were like. But I realized as I got older and I started really reflecting on what it is, the lack of representation of autistic people in media. I hadn't read or seen, anything about autistic people until I was in college. I started watching Atypical. I don't know if y'all know what that show is.
Oh, I love that.
I love that show too. And like The Good Doctor, but that was like, late 2010s. And so it just made me think about the importance of representation of disabilities or learning differences in books that we're teaching our students, because middle school is such a hard time for everyone. So imagine just that being escalated by like 100% by being autistic. You already don't really completely understand how you're different from someone else, but to just feel alone, like I can't imagine how hard that would be. And so I really enjoyed that this book did that with both, blended families. They represented that. Autism people, they represented that. Gosh, I can't say that word. It's several lot test around. Deaf people. It was super refreshing.
And I'll also say another thing that the author did very well in the novel, through the teachers once again, is making sure, like with Max, that he felt included. With like, instead of like he obviously he had a fascination with math and numbers and everything. So the fact that they brought up regularly like, oh, he's great with numbers. He should be the girls' scorekeeper.
Yeah.
And everything. Like they really shone on his talents.
Showcase.
Yes, exactly. So they really showcased his talents and made him feel included, which really helped the class to also realize that everyone in the room had something to bring to the table. Like Cece, with her amazing soccer skills, just because she was deaf, the team was able to do things to still include her, and they made a wonderfully diverse team.
Accepting change. So obviously
Yeah, this one's a huge one.
It is huge. We've all throughout, sexism, diversity, and inclusion, it's all just kind of revolving around the world of middle school. Gender roles played a big part of it, blended families, obviously, and also teamwork. So I think Emily wanted to touch on this a little bit, and then I think Kasey was going to, read an expert from this.
So there was just a lot of changes going on in the book. So we kind of touched on it a little bit when we were giving the summary of the book. We had B. She was coming in to live with the stepdad, or her new stepdad. His name's Wendell. And she goes from living in what she calls the condos with her Aunt Tam, which is her neighbor, and then her best friend, Maximilian.
All throughout the book, though, there's just so much change that happens for this poor girl.
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
It starts with like this giant move of family,
Yes.
like you were talking about, where she is used to the girls and she is used to having her best friend. She moves. She doesn't live by Maximilian anymore. And then you see more change happen. Is like, okay, she's with Bryce now.
Yeah.
Bryce is also middle school's huge developmental period. They're both changing as people. You see her she's in a new house, so she's got a new neighbor. She's never had anyone come and play soccer, and she has that rivalry between them.
Yeah.
So you see that first initial oh wow, someone's gonna compete against me in soccer. And so you see that kind of change, and then you also see her have changes with how she feels about these things. So originally she doesn't like A. A is just competition. Bryce is a bully and everything. So you see her start to change her own viewpoints.
Yeah.
And I don't know, as a teacher specifically, I picked up that she really demonstrates her change, not only through her actions, but she is also reading a book, Richard Terabithia, and so I know I've read that one in middle school.
I saw the
myself.
movie.
Yeah, I saw the movie.
I don't think I ever read the book. I didn't even know it was a book until I started reading this book.
Okay, we read the book and then watched the movie in class. But so you see her kind of marking her change of opinion on people as she reads this book and starts to learn things. So like you were saying, like with A moving in, like she starts to actually have empathy was a big word that we use throughout this book.
Yeah.
Well, first she's competition, then it's like, well, you know what? She might be struggling with her move from New York to here. She might be struggling with the fact that someone else is also just as she's competition to me, I'm competition to her. And she's also having family problems where her dad is still in New York and her mom is here and they've split up, and she starts to really see, wow, we have a lot in common. And then she does the same thing with Bryce, where she's like, you know what? I moved in and I've always been thinking about, me and my mom moved in, it's so different for us. But they're a family of complete boys, and now they've had 2 girls just enter.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Just kind of I mentioned gender roles when we first started talking about this. So I've never lived with a lot of guys. I've lived with guys before, but not an overwhelming amount this poor girl had to go through. And I do things my way. Don't mess with me. Don't touch my products in the bathroom. I take a shower when I want to take a shower. I'm not waiting on anyone else.
Clean your dishes.
Yes. And so I was thinking
on the toilet.
yes, both ways. You have a solid male household and a solid female household, and everyone knows that those two could not be more further apart. And so just for both of them to just accept everyone involved, I know the mom and dad they didn't really struggle with it as much because they loved each other and the baby and live with each other.
And they're adults. They
Yes, but all the kids just how amazing they adapted, and really it seemed throughout the book it seemed a long time, but how quick they adapted.
For sure.
Just kind of crazy.
And the bonding over the fact that there was this new baby that me even, I remember her saying that she hugged her mom and she was like, wow, I used to be just hugging my mom, but now there's this baby in between us. Will this baby, when it's born, will it be, she always uses that, the boys team versus the girls team, that 2v7. And she's like, well, will this baby be on our team or will this baby be on their team?
Yeah.
And then in the end she starts to realize that, we're all one big team. They're all bonding over the mother, obviously having the baby. And I know when she goes into labor, it's a huge deal. The whole family gets together and they're there to support her, and they kind of really bring that supportive nature.
Yeah, it was really
something they can all share.
Yes.
Something they can all agree on in a way, because it's they're all related to this baby.
That's what I think. I think that was really the turning point was the labor. They really all
And I think it's huge that
together.
like this book is like in middle grades, because I feel like that's like a lot of changes happening in middle grades specifically. Like really don't know how to share that with each other.
Yeah.
Like me personally, like I went through a lot in middle school, and I didn't even tell my friends that. Like, no one's going to. So I think like having this book that they can read and be like, wow, like okay, I'm not alone in this. Like I do have like an idea of like I can grow from this, because change is not easy. Like even as us adults in college, we get stressed out so quick, and it's like it's hard to like sit down and be like, okay, what are my threes? You know,
Yeah.
like it's very hard to go back to like what you are thankful for.
Like count your blessings kind of thing.
Yeah.
I also thought it was great, like the fact that the main characters in the book, if you see B reading a book and Bryce reading a book, and they constantly make connections to their book.
Yes.
Like my character is going through this. It's kind of like B reading her book. She's like, oh, the boy did this. That sounds just like Bryce. And then she's like, I wonder if Bryce is feeling all the emotions that he's feeling in my novel. And so you see us like they're connecting to their book, but we're connecting to them through our book.
Yeah.
And I feel like that really highlights the fact that you can connect to novels, even if you're not experiencing the exact same things. A lot of the themes really relate.
What wasn't there an excerpt in the book of like that when we all read it, we were kind of like, oh my gosh, that is 100% accepting change.
I wrote theme just on my sticky note on that page. So it says, maybe it isn't an accident that the sign for team and the sign for family look the same. Big wide circles holding everyone in. So yeah, in that she's talking about the sign being the sign language, the ASL interpretation for family and team, looking almost identical as circles that just hold everyone in. So she's making that connection of that family that she saw as two different teams battling it out, and her and A being two different teams fighting each other for that spot, and then realizing, oh, me and A have to join together to make the girls team. Me and this family, we have to join together for this baby and for our struggles and to work together and everything.
Like overcoming the bad, like to get to the good.
Yeah, the realize that you can't do anything in this world alone. You need other people there to support you through things. So you shouldn't view everyone as an enemy, but you should think, what do we have in common? I know a good quote, I think it was Abraham Lincoln, I don't know why I like this. Freshman year, a quote in one of my classes is, he said, if I don't like that man, I must get to know him. And the idea is that if you don't like someone, that means that you haven't gotten a chance to know them, to find the parts of them that you do like.
I like that.
Yeah. So you may not be best friends with everyone, but there's not a single person on the planet you can't relate to on some degree.
And a lot of things are based off like your first initial reaction to meeting someone. Like it changes over time. Like for us in general, like in this semester, like over time we've gotten to know each other and have very many similarities and so many differences, but we can connect on those similarities and like have the affection for our differences.
Yeah, and it's like B with Bryce. Like Bryce was a bully, Bryce was a bad person. And if that was your first encounter of him and you refuse to open your eyes to the fact that he becomes this completely different person, and it really is like inspiring, because in middle school that is the time when you really do decide who you are, and people change and everything. And you can't hold a grudge against someone from the first time you met them. Right. Because we all do. We go through change, or even if you like haven't gone through the change yet, you being mean to them and everything isn't going to inspire them towards change. So I feel like that teamwork of really acceptance is huge.
Yeah. I think that point leads us perfectly into our last theme of the book, which is character development. So
also
I
a
think
huge one.
a huge one. Yeah, I think we almost put character development and accepting change on the same one, because I think all these characters developed once they accepted change. But I think the two biggest characters that obviously we saw change in was B and Bryce. Did anyone have any specific thoughts on that?
Katherine really mentioned the not change from the principal.
Yes.
I already discussed that earlier. I just wanted.
Yeah, so on our very first meeting, the first thing I came in and said was I thought B was very like egocentric, and everyone else was kind of like, well, yeah, because she's going through so many changes, and she's in middle school, and it's kind of like typical for a middle school girl to be egocentric, and I think that's just something that we all need to kind of remember as teachers. Like kids that age don't have a lot of empathy for everyone else, or as much empathy as some other people might.
It's not because they're like
not in a bad way. It's
Yeah,
more
yeah.
of
like that's their developmental stages.
Yeah.
like they're focused on like their
psychology.
own feelings, and it's very hard for them to put themselves in other people's shoes because what they're feeling is like so overwhelming.
Right.
Yes, exactly. So we touched a lot on like Bea and Bryce and all of their character development already. But I just wanted to say that I think these are obviously the two characters that had the most character development, but in different ways. So with Bryce, we kind of saw him go from being this bully and this person that kind of followed the crowd to someone that's a team player and has more empathy. And then with Bea, we saw her go from very, very like egocentric, like how am I going to deal with all of these like changes, and we saw her really accept everything that was thrown her way with her mom having a baby and her having new brothers. So there was just some specific instances that happened throughout the novel. So on the soccer field, we saw Bea wave to Bryce when they were on different like fields, because we said the boys practice on one field and the girls practice on another. And that was crazy because in the beginning of the book, he didn't even want to walk with him to the bus stop. Like when they very first got to the bus stop one morning, one of Bryce's friends called them twins, and they got into this big argument. So that was really crazy to see from her. And then there were parts in the book where she just said she felt bad for Bryce. That was in chapter 19. I think that, do you guys remember?
I think that was because once he started speaking up and not following the crowd with like his two best friends, Ken and Morris, so they kind of started leaving him out, and he kind of took himself out of that little group. So they like no longer talked to him, and he didn't really have no one to talk to in the field. So he kind of feel like by himself like during practice.
Exactly, yeah. And then there was another part where she kind of touched on. There was another girl on the soccer team named Emmy, and she noticed that her family was blended also. So just being able to notice that other people were going through the same things, and
just having like empathy for others, like rather than just like focusing on yourself. Like you can make friends just by like having similar things that you're going through at home.
And then there was another part where they were talking about teamwork, and they all came upstairs, her, Bryce, and I think it was the mom. They started building the baby's crib together, and that was like the first instance where they were all kind of working as a team, her, Bryce, and his mom.
Tell me about y'all if you've ever put a crib together with your family.
Put together IKEA furniture with friends
It
before.
turns into a fight.
Yeah.
So good for them.
Good for them.
I don't do that.
Directions, a screwdriver, and nails with my family.
I leave that to them. I like. I'm not gonna be sitting there for hours.
Yeah. I think I wanted to add, it's just like a quick little tidbit. Like I think you said earlier, just like the overall development of Bryce. When we first meet Bryce, like you said, he's a follower, and then seeing him transition, I would argue that Bryce had more character development than Bea. But just seeing him transition to not only someone that is no longer being a follower, but is also sticking up for the girls to his so-called old friends.
100%.
Like, it was just really
that's
cool.
not easy to do.
No.
Like in middle school, like you want to fit in, like you want to sit with the cool kids, like you don't want anyone laughing at you or like noticing things about you. So for him to like stand up for her was huge because like at some point like they didn't even like each other. So now he's like literally going against his best friends to show like, hey, like I got you. So I think that was huge.
I wanted to touch on that part where you were talking about like them having empathy, and I think you mentioned like the fact that a lot of these people are going through the same things. I thought about the reason that Bea tends to have starts to have this empathy is because she does take a step back and stop being like, well, this is what's happening to me, this is happening to me, and she starts to see what other people are going through. It's kind of how you were talking about with like another teammate going through the same thing. A going through some family troubles, but she also, one thing they mentioned about the family is like that in between, where she kind of sees these moments as like, this is information I feel like I shouldn't know about them. Like I shouldn't know that A's dad, like that they're divorced, and I shouldn't be seeing Bryce at home when he's brushing his teeth or he's had a bad day and he's sitting in his room. Like,
not. She shouldn't know what color his toothbrush is one of her examples.
Yeah, when you see that in between time, she starts to be like, oh, I don't know that I should be seeing this between all my friends. But then you realize that that's what creates empathy when you humanize someone. It's not just going to school and seeing these people, but it's the idea that all of these people have a life when they go home, and every single one of them has a struggle. So as she starts to notice that and realize that other people are struggling, when she starts to really have that empathy for people and like starts to see them as like, oh, maybe we are all on the same team just against, you know, the struggles of life.
For sure. And it's like you can like work together to overcome those struggles rather than like keep knocking each other down because you struggle.
Yeah. But yeah, so obviously all the characters in the book learned a lot about themselves throughout the novel. Us reading the book also learned a lot about ourselves as readers, as students, future teachers. One thing for me is, you know, this was an assignment. We all loved it, but it was an assignment. I have always struggled with assigned reading. I will read, like, I love reading, but I'm picking the book I want to read. I have just always hated, like, the novels we used to have to read in high school and middle school and even college. Kill a Mockingbird, all of them. I like that book too, but it's just like if someone
I didn't read it.
That's what
it didn't interest me, and I just couldn't bring myself to
like,
it.
I would spark notes it. So one thing about this assignment is like I caught myself doing that. Like I was like, I'm just gonna spark notes this. But the fact that like my other group mates were depending on me to be able to come to the meetings and discuss what I had read and give me my thoughts, like that really motivated me to read it.
100%. I have to say, like, I've had a class where we were supposed to read like this long list of novels and everything, reading by ourselves, and we weren't really talking about them. Mm-hmm. So there was no like accountability to me reading them. So why would I?
Exactly.
Like, number one, I didn't get to pick them. I'm not interested in them. And number two, I don't even get to talk about them with people. Like, there was no point for me. But the idea that this book, I have to say, number one, awesome book. But the idea that I knew I was going to be able to talk to my friends about it, immediately, like every Wednesday after we had our group meeting, I was
so excited.
And I went home and we split the book into 3, and it took me 3 days to finish this book. So right after we talked about it, I went home and read my 100 pages.
Yeah.
It was just an awesome book, and it really motivated me to like, I wanted to know what I was going to talk about, so I was taking notes. And even if it was the same book, but I was asked to read it on my own, I don't know that I would have, and I would have had this experience.
But one more thing, and then I'll shut up. I've never been in a book club before. Like, this was my first. Like, I guess, like, when I thought about book club, I thought about, you know, like, old wives and gathering around. It's just an excuse to get out of the house and drink wine. But I really enjoyed, like, just the whole, like, experience. Design
no
of it.
wine necessary.
No wine necessary.
I mean, if we want.
But yeah, I just liked the design of it. I thought it was a really cool.
I think for me, like, throughout this experience, like, I've always been, like, a very, like, introverted type person when it comes to like schoolwork. Like I've never been one to like reach out and share my ideas and like let's talk about it. Like what did you think? So I think like doing this allowed me to like think like, okay, like this is how I feel about the book, but I want to know how they felt because like we all have different things that we've gone through in life, and I think it was really cool to like read this book and take what we've been through and like hear what other people have gone through and like how they have accepted changes throughout their life and just getting like a different perspective on things, I would say, and like hearing how y'all feel about certain scenarios where like someone might not feel the same and like how we can agree to disagree. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. For me, like touching on what Katie said, definitely like having like group members really like kind of like pushed me and motivated me to read. Although I did like I was like one of the main ones who wanted to pick this book, and so I really like was interested, obviously, in reading it. So then, like Kasey would text like Wednesday after class saying, "Guys, I finished the chapter," and I was like, "Okay, I have to read this." And also, if you like I would be like, "Okay, I'll read the book and I'll take notes like maybe like the day before we meet, so I can like have some discussion points to talk about." And then that's like I was like would say that, but then I wouldn't. Like I think I remember what I was gonna say, but then I didn't. But then like I did start doing that, especially after seeing my group members how like on top they were on reading the book. Like, if you could see Kasey's book right now, it has like 100 sticky notes.
Yes.
I want to say that I've never once read a book. Like, I'm the kind of person that I didn't want to read, so I would audiobook it when I showered only.
Mm-hmm.
But
Showers.
yeah, and so I would say, yeah, that was one of my 3. But Kasey actually in this class would always, she has this giant sticky note where she like plans out her week. It's beautiful.
Every week.
New
sticky note.
So she like was really on the sticky note. So I've been like using sticky notes to keep up with my homework and stuff and integrating them. And now I'm a sticky note person. So yeah, this book is full of sticky notes. And all I did, I think that it would really be relatable to middle schoolers because it's not like I have a sticky note and I wrote off my whole thoughts. Literally, when the principal was being sexist, I wrote sexist on a sticky note and I slapped it on the book. And I did that for all of them. I would write sexist, I would write teamwork, I would write divided. And it was just one word little summaries, but it really reminded me of what I wanted to talk about when I came in.
You learned that you're a sticky note girl.
I'm a sticky note girl, thank you.
I think everyone should be a sticky note person.
Yeah, so I was actually the complete opposite.
I'm not a sticky note girl.
I struggled trying to like read this book. I read it all, but I actually got up at like 6 a.m. this morning to finish like the last 100 pages. And then I didn't take any notes at first because we split it up into hundreds. So
Yeah.
our first meeting we read 100. So I didn't take any notes the first 100. The second 100 I tried a little bit, and then by the third 100, I was taking notes, but I really wish I would have done that in the beginning. So that's something I feel like I should improve on. I also audible the book. I actually read it.
I can't do audiobooks. I
don't
can't
process
focus.
it.
Yeah.
I cannot
Also
process
doing
it.
other
All
things.
it takes is one shower thought.
Yeah,
You miss
I'm
all the
done.
shower.
I'm the opposite. I feel like I can like focus so much better hearing it.
Well, that's something the
audibly.
book goes over. Like, you
Yeah.
see Bryce gets his iPad and his headphones, and
Yeah.
other people get paperbacks, and everything.
Mhm.
Some people get comic books. It's that everyone does.
Differentiation.
Yes,
Exactly.
everyone has a different style, and that's okay. Like, I used to be an audiobook girl, but now I realize if I want to actually know what's going on, I have to have sticky notes.
I have to read in a quiet space. I can't have music on. I have to have like no one around me. Light a candle. Go at it.
And
I
that's
always
what I'm
like
gonna do
highlighters
tonight,
too.
now that I
Highlighters and sticky notes.
It's relaxing to like.
The books in the back.
Yeah, I'm gonna go buy all the other. I just put it on my Christmas list.
Oh.
For real. I said because my brother likes to buy. Like he's more of a nerdish kind of guy, so like he like read buy me a book. So I was like, here's 3. Like my friends, like they were like, oh, let's do Christmas gifts. Let's all get each other books. And they're like, I want this like hardcore romance. I want this mystery. And I was like, I would like these middle school level
Middle school
books.
novels.
And my friend was like, why do you want middle school level books? It's kind of weird. Like,
You have
and
to
I was
get
like,
on the student's
number one,
level.
I need them for Christmas. And also, middle school books are just easy reads for everybody.
Yeah.
And like,
And they're fun.
And they have a great message.
Yeah.
Like this book.
So wholesome. But yeah, so I mean, like, while we're on teachers, what do y'all hope and envision for the classroom?
oh, I love the idea of the book groups and them getting to choose the style that they read and everything. I feel like the teachers' freedom in this is really what got
It gives students like that voice and choice.
voice and choice. You know, that's beautiful. That's going on my wall.
Alliteration. But yeah, I hope, like, I wrote about this in my reflection, but I would love to do this in middle school. I think it'd be so much fun. My fear, now this isn't in this one, it was in the reflection. My fear is that, like, if they don't necessarily, like, have a love for reading, like, we're all future teachers. I mean, we like learning. We like teaching. We like learning. I wonder if they would, like, just kind of reject it or, like, give it
Not
a...
take it as serious.
Yes, like, give it, like, a half-bite, like, attempt. So I think what I would do is I would do this as, like, a final project. Pick the book you want to do, and hopefully throughout, like, the teaching and the year or semester that I've had them, I can instill somewhat of a love for reading in them, that they would enjoy this more.
I definitely think as a teacher, I'm going to be more of a short story for those that don't love to read kind of girl. I know for me, there's so much going on in high school that I did not have time to sit down with a book. Like, after school, I had practice. After weekends, I had work. Like, it was too much to sit down with a book. But, like, a short story, I could totally manage, and it still has the capacity to have those themes and everything. So I feel like short stories with groups of friends and everything might work better for a classroom where you necessarily don't have that time, but still want to build that love.
I'm not gonna teach reading, so I already know I'm not gonna have any kind of like book club. So what I took from this and what I hope to be is one of the like Miss Blaze and I think it was Crow. Started with the K. The other teacher.
Math teacher?
The
teacher.
Yeah, the co-teachers.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I hope to be the teacher that helps them stand up for what's right and kind of guides them, like how one of the teachers gave Bryce the book, the Smile book, and it kind of related to what he was going through and not following the crowd. I hope to be that kind of teacher that shows them what's right and wrong about themselves.
I think for me, like as a future middle school teacher, like I've really enjoyed this book and like what it kind of stood for, I guess you could say. I would most definitely use a book club in my classroom, but like as math and science, like, that's not always easy. But I think I would like to have like a little like nook in the back of the room. So like say you finish an assignment early and you're just like, I'm gonna go grab a random book and just take a little read. Yeah. But obviously not all students want to do that. But I think it was really important, like inside, like in the book, like I really liked how like those teachers that did stand up for the girls, like that like was a huge thing for me because it was so easy to just like see it happen and like pay no attention to it. Yeah. And I've always, so like my freshman year of college in education, 21, 20, or 30, we had to like write a report. And I've always like considered myself like Miss Honey from Matilda. Like that's like how I want my students to feel. Like I want to be like that teacher that like they feel safe to like share their issues with. Obviously like don't get too personal, but like what you're comfortable with sharing and just like let them know like, hey, like I've been in your shoes and like it's okay to struggle, but like you're gonna be fine and I'm here. So like if you need me, you know where to find me.
Back to that,
you can't do it alone.
For me, like I really like aspire to be like the teachers in the book because they were just like so great with like being very aware of what was going on in the classroom and the struggles the students were facing with. And that's like how I want to be so I can help them. And then regarding the book clubs, I'm like probably going to be like a social studies teacher or a math teacher. And so for social studies, I would love like to maybe try to implement like this like book club thing. I feel like it kind of is hard because it's like regarding a specific topic and you can't get so many books like on that. But definitely like you said, like a final project that would be like awesome.
One thing I liked in the novel is I know we have a lot of math teachers in this group. Is that we see the language and we really see the reading side in this novel, but we also see even the math teacher in the novel step up, and they are all, it's game day, they're all like, oh, we don't want to go to math class, and you see the math teacher, like they all come in and like, oh, what is our assignment going to be today? And the whole assignment is based on the statistics of soccer goals.
Yeah.
And they're all so excited and everything. So it's that taking what your students love and incorporating that into the classroom through whatever means, whether that's science, math, social studies, or reading, to make sure that your students feel some sort of connection to what you're doing.
And honestly, like more engagement too. Like giving like real life scenarios. Like for me, like I work at a pizza place, so anytime we do anything with circles, Casey's always like, Kasey, how do you do this? Kasey. But I think it's like crazy how like different scenarios. I know. I'm about to go get some. And I honestly like it's just crazy to like for like a math and science teacher for me, like I literally see myself doing something like this just because us sitting here talking about it, like I've learned so much about y'all that I would have never known if we never did this. So like I think it's really cool to like kind of get an idea of like inside each other's head doing this.
The idea of that getting to know each other and relating to one another and having empathy for one another, all of that.
And I think we're all going to be super awesome future middle school teachers, and I'm proud of us.
Yay.
And welcome to our podcast.
See y'all next week for our next book.
Woo-hoo!